Go. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Hello everyone, I am Jeremy Lupelt. Today I want to talk to you about guns, gun rights, and what I feel about gun rights. What I just read to you was the Second Amendment, which was written many years ago. I got this from law.cornell.edu. So to start out, I'd like to go over some statistics that I found. I got these from AmericanGunFacts.com. First off, there are approximately 270 million civilian-owned firearms in the United States. When talked to in prison, 3 out of every 5 felons say they wouldn't mess with a person that carried a gun. Women use guns approximately 200,000 times a year to defend themselves. In the United States, 88.8% of the people out of every 100,000 residents own a gun. This puts the U.S. as the #1 country with the highest owned civilian guns. With that being said, the United States has the lowest intentional homicide rate in the world. That rate being 4.8% per every 100,000 residents. To put this into perspective, Honduras, having very strict gun laws, has a homicide rate of 91.6% per every 100,000 residents. Nine nations with the lowest gun ownership rates have a combined murder rate 3 times higher than 9 European nations with the highest amount of owned guns per civilians. Every public mass shooting in the U.S. since 1950 has taken place where citizens are banned from carrying guns. With these kind of statistics, how can anyone say that guns are bad? Doing a little research, I found on Forbes.com an article. This article it really puts gun control activists in their place. More civilians have bought guns over the last 18 years than ever before, according to the Department of Justice statistics. The U.S. gun-related homicides dropped by over 39% in the last 18 years. Surveys conducted by the Department of Justice and state prisons in 2004 showed that only 2% of them that owned a gun used it. 2% of them that owned a gun purchased it at a gun show. 10% purchased the gun at a retail store. 40% got them from an illegal source, the black market. With that being said, how can you say that everybody that owns a gun legally, that purchased it legally, that these are the people that are committing these crimes. They're not. It's people that get them elsewhere. The black market, off the street. But with all these laws and everything, it's being held against the typical civilian. The person that wants a gun and owns a gun for protection, for hunting, just to even just target practice. So now we're going to go on to something that I found on whitehouse.gov, which is an anti-gun site. And what I found was something that President Obama said. And he said this after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. He said, unquote, "We won't be able to stop every violent act. But if there's even one thing that we can do to prevent any of these acts, we have an obligation of all of us to try." Here's his plan. He wants to close the loopholes in background checks. Whenever I purchased a gun, I went through background checks. There was a time when there was something on my record that didn't jive with them. They stopped me from purchasing that gun. It took me over a year to actually obtain a gun. So how is he going to close the loophole? There's no loophole there. Everything seems to work just fine if you ask me. Next, he wants to ban military-style assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. Is that really going to help? The people that get these and use these for violent crimes, they're not getting them legally. They're getting them off the streets. They're getting them from Joe Schmo down in the city. So how are you going to ban something that a normal, typical civilian can use to defend themselves? They can use for target practice. They don't use it for the wrong reason. How are you going to ban this? He also wants to make schools safer. Well, in the stats that I read earlier, all the mass shootings happened in areas that banned people from carrying guns. So, you tell me how making schools safer by banning more guns is going to help. It's not going to help. It's going to make it worse. It's going to make it easier. They're going to be targets. Well, this school doesn't allow guns, so hell, let's go here if we want to just kill people. Also, he wants to increase access to mental health services. So now he wants to infringe on the everyday American's personal life, because he feels this is going to help. I'm a veteran in the United States Marine Corps. I own guns. I've been to war. I've seen it all. I don't do wrong. But now to own a gun, you're going to do a mental background check. You're going to see what I've been through, what I've done, what I've gone to the VA for. This just doesn't make sense to me. Not one bit. How is this going to help? You're going to take people that know how to defend and protect, and you're going to limit them on their options. With all this being said, take it as you will. I appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a good night.